She screamed at my disabled daughter for having her wheelchair on the grass. Before I could reach them, the homeowner association. Karen violently flipped Sophie's wheelchair. I heard the horrifying sound of 26 bones breaking. She had no idea she just assaulted a police commander's daughter. Before watching full video, comment below from where you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. Just 5 minutes, sweetie. I will get us both ice cream and be right back. I promised my 7-year-old daughter Sophie as I parked her wheelchair under the shade of a large oak tree. Okay, mommy. Sophie smiled, her eyes bright despite the pain she lived with every day. My daughter was born with a rare condition that made her bones break easily. The doctors called it osteogenesis imperfecta, but to me, it just meant my baby needed extra protection. Sophie's small hands clutched her favorite teddy bear as I walked toward the small tuck shop at the edge of the park. The line was short, just 3 people ahead of me. I kept looking back at Sophie every few seconds, watching her enjoying the butterflies that fluttered around the flowers near her wheelchair. I should never have left her alone, not even for a minute. The woman appeared suddenly, tall, with perfectly styled blonde hair, and wearing a blue polo shirt with Sunshine Estates Homeowner Association embroidered on it. Even from a distance, I could see her angry expression as she marched toward my daughter. Excuse me, miss, I called to the cashier. I need to go, my daughter. But it was too late. The homeowner association woman was already standing over Sophie, pointing at her wheelchair and yelling. I dropped everything and ran. Get this wheelchair off the grass immediately. The woman shouted at my terrified daughter. This is homeowner association property. We just planted this section. I cannot move by myself. Sophie's small voice trembled as she tried to explain. The woman's face twisted with anger. I do not care. These special accommodations are ruining our property values. I was halfway across the park when it happened. The homeowner association woman grabbed Sophie's wheelchair handles and violently jerked it backward. Stop, I screamed. Her bones break easily. My words were drowned by Sophie's piercing scream. The wheelchair tipped over, sending my fragile daughter crashing onto the hard ground. The sound will haunt me forever. Not just my baby screams, but the distinct crackling noises as her brittle bones shattered on impact. By the time I reached Sophie, she was lying motionless on the grass, her body twisted unnaturally. Her face had gone white with shock, tears streaming silently down her cheeks. Mommy, she whispered, everything hurts. The park erupted in chaos. Someone was calling 911. Others were holding back the homeowner association woman who was still yelling about property damage. Do not touch her, I screamed at people trying to help lift Sophie. Her bones break with the slightest pressure. I knelt beside my daughter, afraid to touch her, but desperate to comfort her. Help is coming, baby. Stay still. What is wrong with her? The homeowner association woman demanded, her voice suddenly uncertain. Why is everyone overreacting? A man in the growing crowd turned to her in disgust. She has brittle bone disease. Even gentle handling can break her bones, and you just threw her from her wheelchair? The color drained from the woman's face, but she quickly recovered. How was I supposed to know? There should be a sign or something. Besides, she should not have been on the new grass. I ignored her, focusing entirely on Sophie, whose breathing had become shallow. The ambulance arrived 6 minutes later, though it felt like hours. The paramedics moved with extreme caution, their faces grim as they assessed Sophie's injuries. Multiple fractures. One whispered to his colleague, we need to stabilize her for transport. As they carefully loaded my daughter into the ambulance, I made the call I dreaded most. Robert, I said, when my husband answered, my voice breaking, Sophie is hurt. It is bad. We are heading to City Hospital. What happened? His deep voice tensed immediately. Some homeowner association woman threw her from her wheelchair. She is. There are so many breaks, Robert. There was a moment of silence. Then I am on my way. What the homeowner association woman did not know what she could not have known as she assaulted our daughter was that Sophie's father was not just any concerned parent. Commander Robert Jensen led the city's police department, overseeing every precinct in the district. The next 12 hours were the worst of our lives. Sophie was rushed directly into emergency surgery. X-rays revealed the devastating extent of her injuries. 26 fractured bones throughout her tiny body. Both legs broken in multiple places. Her right arm, several ribs, her collarbone, her pelvis, even some small bones in her hands and feet. She will need extensive rehabilitation, the doctor explained gently. With her condition, healing will be slow and painful. She will be in the ICU for at least 2 weeks. Robert stood silent. In his police uniform, his commander badges gleaming under the hospital lights. His face was like stone, but I knew the rage building inside him. When the doctors left, he finally spoke. "Who did this?" I told him everything. About the homeowner association woman named Veronica Winters, who was apparently the president of Sunshine Estates Homeowner Association, about how she claimed Sophie was trespassing on newly planted grass. About her complete disregard when told. About Sophie's condition, Robert's jaw tightened. "I will handle this." For the next 3 days, I barely left Sophie's ICU room. My baby lay wrapped in casts and braces, connected to machines, heavily sedated to manage her pain. Robert appeared only in evenings, kissing Sophie's forehead gently before disappearing again. Assumed he was working his way of coping with helplessness. On the 4th day, Sophie opened her eyes properly for the first time. "The angry lady hurt me," she whispered, tears gathering in her eyes. "Why did she hurt me, Mommy?" My heart shattered all over again. "Some people are just mean, sweetheart, but she will not hurt you ever again. Daddy's making sure of it." What I did not tell Sophie was exactly what her father was doing. I found out that evening, when Robert arrived with the thick folder under his arm. "Veronica Winters has been arrested," he announced quietly, after assuring Sophie was asleep. "She is being charged with aggravated assault of a disabled minor, reckless endangerment, and violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act." He opened the folder to show me dozens of complaints filed against Veronica over the past year. She has been terrorizing the neighborhood, issuing fake fines, threatening elderly residents, towing cars legally parked on public streets. She has been drunk on what little power she had. "What will happen to her?" I asked. "She will face the full extent of the law." Robert's voice was cold. "No deals, no mercy." Sophie remained in the ICU for 16 days before being moved to a regular hospital room. Her recovery would be measured in months, not weeks. Every tiny movement caused her pain. Simple tasks like drinking from a straw exhausted her. News of the incident spread quickly through our community. Neighbors we barely knew sent cards and gifts. Parents of other disabled children reached out in solidarity. Local news picked up the story, and soon Homeowner Association president attacks disabled child was making headlines across the state. 2 weeks after the incident, Veronica Winters appeared in court for her arraignment. She entered wearing an expensive suit, her hair perfectly styled, expecting to post bail and go home. She had hired the city's most prominent defense attorney. What she had not expected was the crowd of protesters outside the courthouse, or the prosecutor's passionate argument against bail, or the judge's obvious disgust as the charges were read. "Your Honor," Veronica's attorney argued smoothly, "my client had no knowledge of the child's condition. This was an unfortunate accident that has been blown out of proportion." The prosecutor stood. "Your Honor, Mrs. Winters violently assaulted a visibly disabled child in a wheelchair. She ignored the child's pleas and the mother's warnings. This was no accident. It was a deliberate act of cruelty motivated by her obsession with property values." The judge denied bail, citing the severity of Sophie's injuries and the prosecutor's evidence that Veronica had been involved in other incidents of harassment. Veronica's face crumpled with shock as officers led her back to her cell. 3 months later, Sophie testified from her hospital bed via video link, still in casts and unable to sit up without assistance. She bravely told the court what happened that day. "The lady said I was ruining the grass with my wheelchair," she explained softly. "When I told her I could not move by myself, she got very angry and pulled my chair backward. Then everything started breaking inside me. Several jurors wiped away tears. Even Veronica's attorney looked shaken. The prosecution presented security camera footage from a nearby building that had captured the entire incident. The jury watched in horror as Veronica Winters violently jerked the wheelchair backward, sending Sophie crashing to the ground with terrible force. Veronica took the stand in her own defense, claiming she had only meant to move the wheelchair, not tip it over. "I did not know she was so fragile," she insisted. "No one told me about her condition until afterward." "Did Sophie tell you she could not move by herself?" the prosecutor asked. "Well, yes, but... And did you hear her mother screaming at you to stop because her bones break easily?" "I might have, but I was focused on protecting the new landscaping." "So you valued grass over a child's safety?" The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours before returning their verdict: guilty on all charges. At the sentencing hearing a week later, the judge showed no mercy. "Mrs. Winters, your actions demonstrate a callous disregard for human dignity. You assaulted a vulnerable child over something as trivial as grass. This court sentences you to 15 years in prison with no possibility of parole for 10 years. Additionally, you are ordered to pay all of Sophie's medical expenses amounting to $2 million plus $5 million in punitive damages." Veronica collapsed in shock. Her husband filed for divorce the following week. The Homeowner Association Board was disbanded after residents learned how Veronica had been abusing her position for years. 6 months after the incident, Sophie came home from the hospital. She would need a wheelchair for at least another year, physical therapy sessions 3 times weekly, regular surgeries to correct complications from her injuries. But her spirit remained unbroken. On her first day back at school, classmates lined the hallway with welcome signs. Her teacher had arranged a special desk to accommodate her casts. Friends took turns helping her during lunch and recess. Sophie's story had transformed our community. The city council passed new accessibility regulations. A foundation was established in Sophie's name to help other children with disabilities. Parks installed rubber safety surfaces beneath play equipment. One evening, as I tucked Sophie into bed, she asked a question that had clearly been bothering her. "Mommy, is the angry lady still in jail?" "Yes, sweetheart. She will be there for a very long time." Sophie was quiet for a moment. "I feel bad for her sometimes. Nobody taught her to be kind." Tears filled my eyes at my daughter's compassion despite everything she had suffered. Her heart remained gentle. Robert joined us, sitting carefully on the edge of Sophie's bed. "The most important thing," he said, taking Sophie's hand gently, "is that she can never hurt you or anyone else again. And you have helped make things safer for all kids like you." Sophie smiled sleepily. "Then it was worth it." As parents, Robert and I knew the truth. Nothing was worth the suffering our daughter had endured. The physical pain she had experienced, the surgery she still faced, the nightmares that woke her screaming. But we also knew that Sophie had changed our community forever. Her suffering had exposed the dangers of unchecked power and the importance of standing up for the vulnerable. Veronica Winters had broken 26 of Sophie's bones that day in the park. What she had not known was that she had picked the wrong family to bully. She had not just assaulted a disabled child. She had assaulted the daughter of Police Commander Robert Jensen. And while our legal system ensured she paid dearly for her crime, Sophie's enduring spirit ensured her legacy would be one of positive change, rather than victimhood. A year after the incident, we celebrated Sophie's 8th birthday in the same park where the attack had happened. A new accessible playground had been built with smooth rubber surfaces and equipment designed for children of all abilities. A small bronze plaque near the entrance read, "Sophie's place where every child belongs." As I watched my daughter laughing with friends, still in her wheelchair, but growing stronger every day, I knew that justice had been served. In more ways than one, Veronica Winters had lost everything: her freedom, her marriage, her reputation, her wealth. But Sophie had gained something precious: the knowledge that her suffering had purpose, that her story had changed lives, and that sometimes the smallest and most vulnerable among us can create the most powerful